Hello, my name is Holly Bess-Kincaid, and I'm an art teacher, middle school, here in Harrisonburg, Virginia. I'm here to share today a little bit about choice boards and how I use them throughout our virtual learning environment in the spring semester and how I plan to use them in the fall, and if we are in person, virtual, or hybrid. No matter what, I'm going to continue choice boards for my students' learning. I'm going to kind of invite you into my virtual Bitmoji classroom. So my colleague and I, both middle school art teachers in our district, work together collaboratively to come up with our own experience virtually through a Bitmoji virtual classroom. I actually have another video presentation on that I'm sharing through the OATK12 camp. So do check that out as well if you'd like to know more about this environment. But today we're going to specifically talk about the choice boards. So if you look on the main board there, you'll see our choice board of the week and the past choice boards. An option for our students was really to allow them to work at their own pace throughout our virtual learning experience. Some of our students were given access via hotspots that were positioned around our community and our neighborhood, especially for those who needed internet access. So some students may only have internet access available on 1 or 2 days a week. So this was a way that students could easily go back and catch up on past choice boards as well as the information that they may have missed. So it really allowed students to work at their own pace throughout the virtual learning. If students were then to click on one of the choice boards on the board, they would then go to the slideshows. So let's try that out, shall we? If we were to click on one of these choice boards, and if I was in present mode, you'll see that a little bit easier. It would then take the students to a particular slideshow set. And you can see if I were to choose this bottom one, that was our Portrait Week. So I'm going to click over to the Portrait Week choice board. You can see here that each week students were given a variety of choices for their learning. And there were 8 choices. Each week, students were given the same basic types of prompts. Every week, there was an Artist of the Week. So we have an Artist of the Week for this week, which is Archimbaldo. We had some sketchbook prompts that included practicing how to draw eyes, nose, or lips for that particular week, or learning and practicing the proportions of the face. So there usually was 1 or 2 sketchbook prompts where students were able to work on their own that usually only required minimal art supplies depending on what they had available at home. Then there were also usually some challenges. Challenges would use a variety of mediums, whether it was photography or found objects. So for this particular week, it was recreating a famous piece of artwork, as in the Art Ed portraits that was started this past spring, along with myself and a colleague here in Virginia. We did the Art Ed portraits and was mentioned in Time Magazine. And then Getty also was doing a museum challenge, as well as many other museums around the world. So that was really fun. So students were able to pose, research a famous piece of artwork, and recreate it through photography and the objects that they had at home. So the challenges usually allowed for students to be very creative with what they had available. Then there were also usually some creative challenges that might push them a little bit further, and we called those our creative challenges that were pushing their artistic voice a little bit more. We also usually had a virtual field trip, and virtual field trips usually included going to a website or a museum site and kind of exploring some inspiration there. With this particular week, we definitely using wonderful sites throughout museums and different things for students to research their Art Ed portraits and the inspiration for which they would be recreating. So students had those basic challenges every single week and were able to then explore those. If they were to click on any one of these squares, it would then take them then to the slide automatically, that they would then be able to learn a little bit more. There were usually a video tutorial of some sort each given week or handouts that were available. If I were to kind of go down, you'll see some of our other ones. Here is the Earth Week. And I'm going to move over here a little bit so you can see our Earth Week choices. With this, again, we have a sketchbook prompt. We have an Artist of the Week, Monet. We had a video tutorial, how to create a nature mandala using found objects in nature. There were challenges both using virtual or recycled materials. We also invited students to create on Canva and create a poster supporting Earth Day or issues that they felt were important to keep our Earth healthy and clean. So those were typical things. This particular week, we also had a virtual field trip, inviting students to go to a wonderful nature botanical garden in Richmond. And so students were able to then virtually travel to see this garden and imagine that they were Monet and they were creating in this beautiful garden. How might they draw and recreate the sights that they see in their own vision and interpretation? So there was always some sort of exploration where they felt like they could travel to another place or time and create and find inspiration. Choice boards that we set up, the students were asked to do or complete at least 3 assignments each week. Now, of course, that would allow students to have a little bit of choice and voice, looking at what materials they had available, what items might inspire them to be creative. Many students also loved the artist inspiration because it usually came along with a bit of a biography, a worksheet with some basic questions about the artist, as well as an artistic prompt that they could then respond to in a similar way to the way the artist was responding. So for example, with Monet, it was creating in a garden scene, whether it was through our virtual garden tour, or if it was going out into their own backyard and creating from the flowers and plants that were blooming in the spring. So each week, those students were able to look at all of the choices available and pick 3 to create. Now, sometimes students would just be so excited and enthusiastic that they would end up creating 5 or 6 or even all 8 of the choices. But it also allowed students, if they needed, a little bit of a break. Some students were struggling with different learning throughout different classes and the expectations from a lot of the classes. It was stressful for students because they were learning in a different way that they were not accustomed to. So there was a lot of grace given to students. If in one particular week they felt like they could do more than 3, and then the next week they felt like they were struggling to get 2 done, those extras would then count towards all of their points overall. So there was an expectation throughout the 6 weeks of virtual learning that were officially graded and assessed to make sure that they completed a certain number of assignments. And I think that gave students a little bit of confidence in being able to control some of their learning choices, be able to have voice in how they were creating and when they were creating. They were able to adjust their schedule. If there was a family emergency or other things going on at home, they were able to adjust that to make sure that they were successful both in their classes and being able to manage their time at home. So I think the choice board was a really wonderful way. I did survey the students at the end of the semester on the choice boards and how they really responded to the different things that they were learning about, whether it was an artist or whether it was a virtual field trip, all of these things. So when students were surveyed, they actually really appreciated the artists that they were learning about. They wanted to learn more about those. They appreciated the sketchbook prompts because for many of our students, that was something that they felt like they had the materials available. They also really appreciated the technique challenges. So I did offer some different challenges of materials or ways to use materials in different ways. So for example, markers being colored onto a piece of plastic wrap with a little bit of water, making it look like a watercolor. So different little tricks that the students seem to really respond to and appreciate. All of these things were kind of moments of inspiration for our students that they really seem to respond well to. The Hero Week was also a favorite among our students. It included creating their own comic book and creating their own superhero. They did hero posters based on local heroes that we had in our community. So it was a big fan moment for many of our students. They also loved the drawing challenges and creating superhero outfits. So sometimes those little basic moments and giving those students a voice and choice in what they are learning can be moments where students really feel that they have ownership of their creative voice and how they can choose what they want to explore. Some students did respond that they were really happy that there were so many options because it did allow them to choose. There were a few that felt so excited because they had so many options and they really loved so many of them. So they appreciated that they were able to actually go back week after week if they wanted to and re-explore and continue to upload those items. Now, when students did explore a particular item and they might go and look at the information on the individual slide, they would get more information about what the challenge was and how to create it. Here we were inspired by amplifier.org. If you're not familiar, it's a wonderful site, and they also have a teacher's site that you can kind of join and be an amplifier educator. It is a wonderful option for students to see how art, visual art, can really have a voice for change. And this was something that they were actually pushing. They had a global open call for artwork, dealing and on kind of honoring our responders during the COVID pandemic. So that's something I definitely would check out. So our students actually looked at the website and looked at other pieces of artwork that were put in through the open call. There was also some pieces that they were able to check out. Then they were invited to go to Canva to actually create their own poster. I was really impressed, and some of the students really ended up loving Canva and used it for several of their other projects. It was an easy way for students to be able to create in a digital format, especially those who then had those school laptops at home. They were able to create when they might not have had paint available or markers or other colors. So it was a wonderful option for our students. So basically our choice boards and the way we use them, this was shared during our Google Classroom environment. So this virtual classroom was shared, and all of these slides were clickable links that students could then explore and learn and choose what they did for creation for that week. Now, to create these wonderful choice boards and all of these Google slides that we put together, and again, this was a collaborative effort. I think it's really important that we work collaboratively when we can, and at this moment, this is a wonderful opportunity, since we are doing virtual, to have teachers work together in school districts. As we look towards the fall, I know my district is talking about hybrid or virtual being something that we will visit at some point in the fall. So what better way for art teachers to come together, work collaboratively to create a learning experience for students? Not only do students at my school get the benefit of learning through this virtual environment, but the students that I am sharing with at the other school are also benefiting from my own items that I'm contributing to the slideshow, but also the things that the art teacher at my fellow middle school is sharing and adding to these slides. So they're learning from not only one art teacher, but two. And I think when you work smarter, not necessarily working harder at this point because we are collaborating, it gives the students the added information from two different voices and really broadens our options of things that we can give our students. So choice boards was a wonderful way for us to collaborate together. We really enjoyed it, and I want to show you Canva. So Canva was the way that we actually worked to build the choice boards, and I will show you that shortly. So stay tuned for Canva. Welcome to Canva.com. So Canva has been one of my favorite go-to websites to create online information. If you are an educator, you can sign up for Canva.com's educator membership. It actually gives you an upgraded pro membership for free, so definitely check that out. You're looking at my Canva homepage. And if you look over to the left, you'll actually see my folders, which I think is a great way that I can organize all of the information that I'm creating on Canva. I've used Canva to create all of my choice boards, and I'm able to collaborate with my colleague through Canva. So we can both work on the same document together. We're part of our own little team. So you can actually see there where it says Holly Bess's team. So that's been a wonderful way too when I had a student teacher to allow her also to participate and collaborate on all of the things that we were creating. I do work with the social media for my Virginia Art Education Association. So you'll see some of those social media posts or things for Virginia Art Education. My choice boards are organized in its own little folder. I've got personal things that I create on Canva, as well as school documents, worksheets, handouts, those back to school flyers, even posters for my principal on some of our ways that we are inviting students to navigate our school in a safe manner. So all of those things are created here. I can easily share them with anyone who needs the copies of them. So it's a great way that I can also collaborate with other educators. You can see as you look down at the bottom of the screen, some of the options for creating. They have templates that you can use that helps you organize your page beautifully. They also have some lovely things that you can look at as far as imagery and different types of fonts. So let's look at my choice boards. So you can see here some of the choice boards that were created. What I did for creating the choice boards was create a grid, and each of the individual squares were then placed into that grid. So if you see here is our Earth Week, and it's kind of scrolling through. And each of those individual squares was then put into a photo grid, allowing the title of the choice board to be in the middle, and then each of the squares being around the whole grid to allow students to see the full week's options for learning and creativity. Individual images were posted in an Instagram format, which also allowed me to share those on my teacher Instagram page and have students engage and get excited about the upcoming learning and choice opportunities for that week. So this is a wonderful way that you can really use the clip art and images available to add to your choice boards. So let's look directly at one of my choice boards. These are the individual choices that the students would have that would then be posted on a slide to allow students to engage and get more information on each of the choices. You can see that you're able to add text, so there are text boxes. So over on the left-hand side, we have a toolbar. The toolbar allows you to upload your own imagery. So if you were to scroll down and see where I have uploaded some imagery here, all of those things can be added directly from different items or things that you might create yourself. I did create a tutorial, a video tutorial and time lapse with my colleague and I creating our own nature mandala. So I was able to take some of those images and videos and upload them directly into Canva and then be able to put them directly into our beautiful choice board for that week. The leaves can be added through the clip art. They also have templates that are available. So there are photos that you can search through. You can actually type directly in. So being an educator, you'll get pro membership availability. So you'll be able to type in what you're needing and find the images that match your particular search. So if I typed in paintbrush, you can see all of the options that are available for you. Elements include different types of clip art, different types of shapes like a paint splat. If you see a little shape that has a picture of a landscape with clouds and little mountains, that's actually a photo grid. So when you use that, you're able to create a place where a picture will go into. So if I had an uploaded photograph, I would be able to add that. So I will show you how that works. So here's a blank page, and I'm going to drag this little circle over into our space, and I'm going to look at my uploads images. And you can see we did the Twitter chat recently for our OATK12 group, And so those images are there, and that's actually how I created a lot of those. But any of these different images can then be put directly into my little shape. And I'm going to kind of scroll down here and see if I can find a picture that I would like to use. Here's a little frog. So I can drag that frog, origami frog, right into that little space, and you'll see how it is cropped immediately into that shape. So depending on what I'm using, I can edit it and put it right in there. I can add elements like text, and that can be a heading, a subheading, or body text. There is also some text that is already styled, so you can easily drag this style over and change what the text says very easily if you like the look or the layout of those pieces. So it's some ways that you can start with something that's pre-made and edit what it says, or you can start on your own and add your own heading or subheading or body text, whatever you'd like to add to your item. You can also add videos, you can add background colors or textures. So if there's something that you want to add in there, you can see there are patterns, abstract, food, different textures. I could type in lily pad and see if there's anything that might be maybe water. So there's some water textures. I could drag that into the background. There we go. So now my little frog, origami jumping frog, is kind of floating in the water there. So there's some fun ways that you can layer things together. There are elements as far as different textures or a lily pad. Let me see if I can find a picture of a lily pad, because I think that would be kind of fun. Or let's see, just a leaf. There are some leaves. I can scroll through and see if there is one that I like. Once you add an image, you can click on the corners to drag, resize, or even rotate. So you can change the position of the different items around your image. So some fun ways that you can layer and add different things. You can also, if you look over to the right-hand corner where it says position, you can change where this might be, and you can also have things on top of each other. So there's some great ways. So once you're finished, you can actually download your image. So when you download your image, it can be a PNG, which is also a great thing if you're using something that you want to have a transparent background. So if you're building your Bitmoji virtual classroom, here's another way that you can make things for your virtual classroom. You can leave some items that would not have anything added to them and make those a transparent background and add them right into your virtual classroom. So some great ways to do that. I can make it a PNG, a JPEG, a PDF, something for print as well. So if you're creating handouts, this is another way that you can do that. You can also make some GIFs and small videos. There are some upgraded things on the site to do that as well. Another thing that I've really enjoyed recently is also being able to use Canva to create different types of videos or presentations. So there's lots of different ways that you can use Canva, but I have really appreciated it as a collaborative tool to help create choice boards throughout virtual learning. I mentioned that we are going to actually continue the choice boards throughout our learning in the fall. My colleague and I have talked about it, and our students had such great reviews of enjoying the virtual learning experience through choice boards that we are going to continue this throughout the fall, whether we're in person or if we are continuing our virtual learning format. So what we're planning to do, if we are able to return to our classroom, is to have this be a way that is a flipped classroom in many senses, where students will be able to do some things in advance by looking at some of the information. And then when they're able to be in the art studio in person, they'll be able to really focus on the creative challenges and the ways that they can use the materials that would then be available to them at school to create their own artwork. So this would be a way to allow students to access information, to do some of the research or planning ahead of time, and allow them to use the in-class studio time really dedicated to getting their artistic creations and thoughts down on paper through paint or prints or clay or whatever materials they're choosing to use. It would also allow students to really be able to then focus on the teacher opportunity to share individual information with the students, or the students to be able to ask questions from the educator. So it's going to really free up a lot of that and giving the information to the students in advance. If we are in person, I can also definitely use this to be an opportunity to share at the beginning of the class, have some of those items available for students to have self-guided learning and be able to explore some of those things on their own. So it's also going to be a wonderful thing too when we have substitutes or different things where I might be absent from the classroom. This will allow the information to be there and students to be self-guided in some of their learning. It will allow us to hopefully continue to make sure that creativity is not canceled. No matter if we are virtual, hybrid, or in person, we will continue using choice boards and giving students voice and choice in their creativity. I hope you enjoy Canva. Definitely try it out. Let me know what you think. If you're creating choice boards, I would love to see what you've created and how your students are learning through choice. Bye for now.